Hey guys, welcome to Yesterday's Coffee, the podcast where we chat about fitness, nutrition, and business all over coffee that may or may not have been brewed yesterday. Today we're discussing weight loss surgeries, the benefits, the detriments, our personal opinions, and experiences with working with people that have gone through these, and just trying to provide some insight into what the other half of this journey looks like after it's been done.
And just to give a disclaimer, neither one of us have had a weight loss surgery.
No.
Neither one of us have sat through a weight loss surgery info session or class.
Consultation.
I have never been talked to directly by a doctor about a weight loss surgery and what that would look like. So these are things, I did do a small rotation in a bariatric clinic. I also did a short rotation in the bariatric wing of a hospital. So I have seen these things. I have been around these things. I do know the education behind it. And then we obviously have the experience of having clients and knowing people who have had this surgery done. And that's kind of where our experience and our knowledge is coming from.
Mm-hmm. So where would you like to kick this off?
Well, I want to start with what you will typically hear in a weight loss surgery info session. So what the doctors are going to be focusing on. And again, this is typically coming from patients' mouths. Okay, so this is going to be more of what patients actually walk away with and then tell people like us about what they were told. So again, I don't know what the first half truly looks like, but
I think this is the secondhand information.
Yes, this is the secondhand information. And so I think what we're here to do too is to potentially underline things that the doctors may be saying, but you might not be totally picking up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe giving just a little bit more insight into what the doctors what they mean when they say certain things. So I do want to go through first what the doctors say and then kind of what those things actually mean or what the truth might be.
Cool.
Yeah. So a lot of times when you are going through these types of sessions, at least what's been reported to us, the doctors very much focus on, obviously, the weight loss aspect, right?
I mean, that's the whole reason you go into this. You've got a bunch of weight to lose. Whatever you tried up to this point hasn't worked. And so the doctor tells you, hey, this might be the best option for you. And,
there are a few different surgeries. What we're focused on today is the sleeve, so the gastric sleeve, which is the most common surgery now. It's accepted to be the safest surgery currently, but it's important to know that any weight loss surgery and anything basically besides the band is something that cannot be reversed. Okay, so that's important to know. So the doctor is typically going to focus on the fact that you're going to lose weight, but a lot of times with the sleeve surgery specifically, they're going to talk about all these metabolic benefits.
And so what's the sleeve, first of all?
So the sleeve is basically when they turn your stomach, which, your esophagus comes down, your stomach is kind of this like bean-shaped organ. So they're essentially just making it a tube. So they're cutting off that kind of like rounded bean shape to your stomach, and they're leaving you with just a sleeve.
Okay. So this is where they actually cut away.
Yes. So they are cutting away part of your stomach. Some of the other surgeries typically involve completely like routing around the stomach or routing around pieces of the intestines. But again, those surgeries are far less frequent and less common these days. Most doctors are focusing on the sleeve because it's kind of seen to be the one currently with the least amount of negative side effects.
Okay. Got it.
So we know what the sleeve is. So these doctors typically tell patients about all of these metabolic benefits that they will potentially see. So, an increase in insulin sensitivity, meaning better carbohydrate metabolism, better metabolism overall, changes in like fat burning or the way your body burns or stores fat. And we'll get into, again, the truth behind that a little bit later. Doctors will also mention the fact that, again, this surgery works by restricting the volume of your stomach.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. If you've got less volume for food to come in, you're going to eat less. That's going to lead to weight loss.
Yes. So they very much focus on the fact that, yes, they are taking a part of your stomach out. Yes, that's going to decrease the volume of food that you're able to eat, overall lowering the amount of calories that you're able to take in at any one time. They typically will mention that nutrient absorption might be impacted or might be slightly impacted. I think that this is a place that I want people to understand more about. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that later. Doctors do always mention it. Not sure if it always gets across or gets heard, and I'm not sure how much emphasis they put on it. But it is always recommended that people who go through these surgeries are on a vitamin mineral supplement forever. Yeah.
Which, I mean, isn't a bad idea for anybody.
It's not a bad idea, but that is something that I do know for a fact doctors are recommending and telling people, and, whether the people hear it or not is questionable. The last thing that doctors will focus on is that this is a long-term solution and it creates sustainable change for you. So sometimes these programs will say that there's literally no other way for you to lose weight, depending on, what your situation is. And they might tell you that weight loss surgery is your only option. I personally disagree with that. But
100%.
Yeah, but the doctors will tout this weight loss surgery as something that is sustainable. It's going to last you forever. It's a one-time thing, blah, blah, blah. So,
well, I've heard situations where people are going through weight loss protocols with diet and seeing success. And then the doctors that are a part of these hospital or clinic weight loss settings will actually then pitch the surgery as a way to keep it off when these people are already seeing success, which
that just makes me so angry.
It's just the most ridiculous thing.
Let's not forget that surgery is a money game, okay? I'm not saying that, doctors are recommending unnecessary surgeries to people, but at the end of the day, that's how surgeons get paid, right? By surgeries that are performed. And there are still quotas. There are still things that need to get done. I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
that a doctor would recommend.
And that's not to say that every single doctor is malicious in intent.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all.
But there are situations where when you just step back and look at some of the stories that we've heard from people that we've worked with, it's what was going on in that situation.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get too far into the conspiracy theories here.
Again,
so
doctors are wonderful people. They're great at what they do.
And get back to what this is.
Sometimes they're not always as well informed as people think they are. So it's always worth it to get multiple opinions.
Well, yeah, I don't think we need to dive into the lack of nutrition information that doctors
we can always talk about that later.
But that's another topic.
Anyway. So the truth about weight loss surgery. Let's go into that.
So let's talk about what the actual function of the surgery is. Obviously, so we've got less volume to the stomach now. That's going to lead to less food intake, and less food intake leads to weight loss in this grand idea of this.
Essentially, this is essentially just calorie restriction, guys. This is just a starvation diet. I shouldn't say starvation, whatever. It's drastically cutting down the amount of volume that you're able to eat, drastically cutting down the amount of calories that you're able to eat, to the point where right after surgery, in my opinion, people aren't even able to get the amount of calories that their body needs to function best.
Right. We know that weight loss comes from a caloric deficit. And any of these surgeries are based around that idea. It's not, because I think one of the biggest problems is the way that these surgeries are pitched as this
the way that they talk about
cure-all fix that is totally devoid of regular nutritional advice and requirements, because you're still playing that same game.
They're now being touted as metabolic surgeries. I think that's the problem, is the doctors have kind of started clinging to the fact that we've seen metabolic changes happen, and the exact mechanisms we don't really understand. Okay. So doctors are just seeing these metabolic changes happen, and now they're pitching these surgeries to people as metabolic surgeries, not weight loss surgeries. And they're kind of glazing over the fact that at the end of the day, this is still a low-calorie approach.
Right.
This is still a low-calorie approach.
What's so crazy is that the same amount of calories that you're going to be consuming after the surgery that lead to all this weight loss would do the exact same thing if you never had the surgery.
Exactly.
So if you have the surgery and then suddenly you're forced to eat 800 calories a day because you physically can't consume more because you'll throw it up. If you were doing 800 calories without the surgery, guess what? You don't have all these negative side effects that we're going to talk about, but you're still going to be seeing the same progress. Now, obviously, the drawback to that is that a lot of people don't have the discipline, desire, nor should they, to be eating 800 calories per day.
Mm-hmm.
And so this surgery, in that sense, forces you into it, which is what forces the weight loss, which is why people see success initially. And it's because you have no other way to do it. It's a quick, immediate fix that is forcing you into a very steep caloric deficit, but the exact same rules of traditional weight loss from dieting and exercise still apply.
Yeah. And here's the thing, again, since we don't truly know 100% why these adaptations happen, I'm not saying that it's not true. Okay, I'm not saying that there may not be these metabolic adaptations from the surgery itself, but all of the information. So the adaptations that the doctors are talking about, right? So insulin sensitivity, different things being secreted at different times, a decrease in hunger hormones. So all of these, again, I'm just calling them metabolic adaptations for the sake of simplicity. But all these things that the doctors are talking about, they are there in some cases, not all cases. We don't exactly know why they're there or why they're happening. And I'm not saying that that it's not truly just the surgery itself that's causing this, but it may not be. So again, it's not a cure-all. It's not a solution. I personally think that a lot of those adaptations are probably happening because your body is not able to absorb as well. So that's the number one thing that, again, I think gets a little glossed over, or at least patients aren't hearing it very clearly. The fact that, like, this is irreversible. This is not a reversible procedure. You are losing part of your stomach that secretes acid and helps your body break down protein. The stomach is the only place in the body that protein is really digested. Mm-hmm. So if you have a smaller surface area secreting less of the stuff that needs to be there to digest protein, and you've got less surface area to absorb anything, like, you're going to have issues with eating protein.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we see come out of a lot of weight loss surgeries is people are able to eat, smaller amounts of protein and potentially not enough protein, compared to their needs.
Right. And so you've got this combination of low protein intake, low ability to consume calories overall, and you get into this position where you're forcing over time metabolic slowdown. And over time, you can still adapt to eat more and more and more. And every single follow-up study shows that weight gets put back on. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people that see success long-term.
Who have no complications, who see amazing success. And I'm not saying that these surgeries are completely bad for everybody. I think that there is a smarter way to do things in most cases, and we're just not there yet with recommendations and ways we approach it.
How early people are recommended these surgeries is what's the biggest problem. Mm-hmm. Because it just isn't, while you might see progress in the first 5-10 years, over time, I mean, study after study that follows up people long term shows that, while you might have lost a massive chunk of weight initially in that first year or two, by year 5, maybe you've still lost half of that, and there's really very little studies that show data beyond the 10-year mark right now. So all that's showing thus far is that while you do see a lot of initial weight loss, we do see weight creep back up over time, and that's because that stomach expansion is a real thing. If you haven't learned the fundamentals of nutrition and real eating from discipline and from actually being able to structure your day around real foods, and you've just been relying on this surgery to do all the work for you, if you continue to stretch things back out over time, you're going to be 15 years down the road in the exact same spot in a worse position.
Well, because at this point, even though your stomach is stretched back out, your body still may not be great at breaking down or absorbing certain food.
Right.
So you might be able to eat a larger volume, but you might only be able to eat a larger volume of things that might not be the greatest choices for you.
Well, so let's expand on that absorption topic. So, because most of the time we just think about eating food, it's like whatever comes in my mouth, that's what my body's using, and that's not how it works.
No.
So Explain it to us.
So it has to be digested first, right? So that is literally what your whole digestive system does. It breaks down your food into small enough pieces that your body can actually take and use to get things done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just talked about how protein is mostly digested in the stomach and that the stomach is responsible for secreting a lot of things that help aid that process. Well, the stomach also secretes things that help aid digestion further down the chain as well.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're less effective in the stomach, you're essentially dumping a bigger burden into the small intestine, which is just not great to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So if those larger food particles, specifically proteins, get through, the small intestine can't really do anything with them. That food is essentially going to be malabsorbed. Okay,
right.
So it's not going to be absorbed.
And you get in a situation where you've got less ability to bring overall food volume into the system.
Mm-hmm.
You've got less surface area to actually absorb the nutrients because the small intestine in the stomach, the small intestine folds all over itself
mm-hmm.
to give you more surface area to absorb things. Not that we're cutting out the small intestine here, but with less stomach surface area, like you said, there's less room for absorption there. And so you've got less ability to absorb nutrients, less ability to bring overall nutrients into the system, and so you run into the situation of malnutrition almost in
mm-hmm.
certain situations.
And a lot of people who go through the surgery and who are really good about taking their multivitamin every day, even those people who do take their multivitamin end up with nutrient deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
So, year after year on their blood work, they're still low in certain areas. And that proves to me that, your body is in a state of malabsorption after these surgeries. And I did want to say one thing, too, about, the surface area for absorption. One of the metabolic adaptations that doctors talk about is the fact that your small intestine might potentially secrete certain things to increase the absorptive capacity of the small intestine. But again, we don't know all the facts about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just more science. That's really not important, but I just want to say that I know that that's true and that exists, right? So the fact is your body is not as effective at digesting and absorbing nutrients after these surgeries. And I think that is what triggers a lot of those, quote, metabolic adaptations, because your body is effectively getting less calories, less nutrients, and it's trying to extract more out of your food,
mm-hmm.
but it can't. So the other thing that happens is it increased transit time. So, the speed at which the food moves through your system increases after these surgeries, which again, we know that increased transit time, again, leaves less time for the body to truly absorb your nutrients, which is not a good thing. So again, your body's absorbing.
Would that be decreased transit time? Less time in the system? Is that what you're saying?
Increased transit time, so going through your body quicker.
Which would shorten the time it's in there.
Yes.
So decreased.
Decreased transit. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so decreased
Sorry, my bad.
time. Decreased
transit time.
Speed through the system.
Yes, increased speed through the
okay.
system.
I just wanted to make sure.
No, you got that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you had more time, you'd have more time to absorb it.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is why, again, all of these things that we just talked about are why 100% you have to be taking a supplement and a good, high quality, pre-activated, super bioavailable multivitamin
mm-hmm.
every single day for the rest of your life if you have had a weight loss surgery. Because you are not getting all of your nutrients from your food, never. 100% never. You're not.
Yeah, I mean, most people aren't anyways.
Yeah, most people aren't anyway. So you should be taking it no matter what. But, especially, I cannot say that enough, especially after a surgery like that. I think...
Well, because we know that, unless you're eating the most ridiculous amount of vegetables and variety of
mm-hmm.
them, that you won't even come close to your RDAs with most vitamins and minerals.
So even somebody with a full stomach capacity.
As someone with a complete digestive system,
mm-hmm.
much less somebody with a fraction of one.
Yes. So, yeah. So please take your vitamins. This is irreversible. You'll never get your absorptive capacity back. Yeah.
I think all in all, what we're saying is that there needs to be a lot more thought put into going through this, because the way that it's pitched right now is just oh, you didn't lose weight in the XYZ thing that you tried. Let's just try this because...
Yeah, and I mean, the questions that they ask, because you do have to be approved, right? Just like any other big intervention in medicine, you do have to go through a chain of other interventions. But in a medical setting, that might be 1 or 2 visits with a dietitian. That might be a round of weight loss pills. That, you know what I mean? It's not something that's comprehensive. And all you really have to say is, yeah, I tried it. It didn't work. You know what I mean? So there's really nobody checking these things, making sure that people like really did try in a certain way. At the end of the day, they're like, okay, well, if you want the surgery, you're going to have the surgery. Like, there's not enough.
Well, I think in a lot of cases, there are certain foods that you just really can't eat again. Like, just with the way that you can digest it, or like if you try to go out and have a big meal with somebody, you just can't do it. Like, there's things in like...
You just totally changed topics and I'm so confused.
I'm just talking about like having the surgery in general.
Oh, yeah.
What else were you going to add?
No, I just, you threw me for a loop, but we're talking about like the process of actually like having the surgery done.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing on thoughts of just like the gravity of the situation.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's so easy to be able to get one. And yes, you have to go through some hoops and you have to try out some different programs first. But at the end of the day, it's pretty easy and people don't understand the gravity. Like, you're right. People don't think ahead to those situations. And people don't consider the fact that they're inherently damaging their body's natural function. Mm-hmm. No matter what positive benefits people will say that a surgery might possibly give you, I think it's still unnatural to cut a part of your body out and expect your body to function better.
Well, because, again, at the end of the day, all you're doing with surgery is physically forcing yourself into calorie restriction. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. You're not granted this superpower of weight loss. It's just physically sealing up your body's capacity to eat food and thereby restricting your calorie intake, because up to this point you haven't found a solution to do that on your own.
Yeah.
So
I think that, you know, no matter if these metabolic adaptations are real and true and simply just a result of surgery, even if that's true, you're still losing a majority of the weight from calorie restriction.
That's it.
That's it. That's literally it. And here's the other part too, is like, people don't get coached well enough on metabolic flexibility and how your metabolism can change over time and what to do after you've reached your goal weight. Like, I think people are just told that they need to keep the same amount of intake and calories in food forever. And we know, because we've talked about reverse dieting enough, that we can get you back up to a level of food that's comfortable for you, that, you know, satisfies you, but also fills your body's nutritional requirements, and live a nice, happy life and be able to eat things that you want to eat. So this whole process to me just feels like it's making people's lives harder by trying to make them easier.
Well, and what you have to understand too is that 99.9% of people can do this without surgery. And we've seen it done. You've had a client that was over 500 pounds that's lost over 300 pounds.
Yeah, without surgery.
Without surgery. And it's anybody can put their mind to it and do it.
Okay, but remember, it's not always a mental thing. It's not always willpower. Like, there are conditions.
99.9% of people,
I think it's probably less than that.
99.8% of people.
Again, I acknowledge that there are people out there who have tried really, really hard.
Right.
And they might not have the right tools or resources, but they also might not have...
So would you recommend surgery to them?
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No, but what I would recommend is that we change our system to get better at identifying the root causes of people's issues, right?
Well, right.
Like, that's what I'm talking about.
But you just said it yourself. You wouldn't recommend surgery to
No, but I'm saying that diet and exercise, traditional diet and exercise, may not be the answer for them either. Like, it might be working with their body's chemistry and physiology and
absolutely
fixing things
I'm
first.
saying that 99.9% of people don't need the surgery.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I thought you were saying that 99.9% of people could just go on a diet and exercise, and that's not true.
No, I'm saying 99.9% of people don't need the surgery, because there is some way. Like, if you look at lifestyle change on a 5 or 10 year scale, the amount of work that you can do, even somebody that's the most stubborn metabolism in the world, give me 5 years, we'll make it happen.
Well, and what we were talking about earlier, too, is the fact that I feel like doctors need to give people more resources. Like, have them spend more time with a dietitian. Have them go maybe sit with a therapist or, go through some of like maybe the mental barriers that they have with food. Like there are other ways that we can address pretty much any problem somebody has when it comes to weight loss other than surgery.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to do a better job of changing the way that we recommend it and the environment in which we recommend it. I don't know. I would personally like to see dietitians having to recommend surgery.
Yeah.
Like, don't give doctors the option to recommend surgery. Make them go through progressive programs with a dietitian first and not just weight loss pills from a doctor. Oh, the weight loss pills didn't work for you? Like, let's try the surgery. I think if we're going to be responsible, it should come from the people who know the most about food.
Yeah, I think that's dead on. Like, if you really had it to the point where the final stopgap before surgery was
a program with a dietitian.
Believe it or not, somebody that's actually versed in nutrition.
Oh, wow. What a concept.
Yeah, that would really be something.
Like, it kind of does confuse me, though, that, like, again, doctors have the final say in something that is more of a nutritional, that's more of a nutritional question than anything else. Like, yeah, like that to me is
like literally any other
kind
form
of crazy
of medical practice
has to go through a specialist.
They'll refer out to a specialist.
Yeah, I am the specialist when it comes to food. Okay,
except for nutrition.
Yeah,
it's mind blowing.
Yeah, like this is why I don't work in hospitals.
Yeah,
because this whole concept to me just blows my mind. And yes, you do have to go through a couple classes. Like, you have to go through a lot of classes, actually, before you go into surgery. It's like months of classes. You do actually have to lose weight before you go into weight loss surgery most of the time. Because
so they have to have proven that you can do this without surgery before you
have the surgery. Again, the concept to me is so crazy.
Well, because they've got to prove that if we put you in a caloric deficit, you're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
And now we're going to stitch you up or cut you up to force that long term.
And it decreases the risk of complications and whatever. The smaller you are, the easier it is to have weight loss surgery, which, again, such a weird concept.
Yeah.
And so, I know that you have to go to lots of classes, lots of info sessions. You do have to go see a dietitian regularly before this. But in my experience, and again, I'm not putting anybody else in my profession down, but in my experience, those dietitians aren't given the right tools to help people the best. They're instructed to underline what the doctor is saying,
right,
and to try and help these people lose weight before surgery. They are not the step before surgery. Again, they're not trying to fix the problem in order to get somebody out of having to do surgery. That's what I would like to see a dietitian's job in bariatric surgery look like, is like, it is your job to help these people lose weight so they don't need to have the surgery.
I mean, that's what it should be.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what it should be, but it's not. It's not. And again, I did that. I was in that rotation. Like, I saw they very much focus on just like pre and post-op nutrition and making sure that the patients are getting their needs met. But it's less of a focus on, hey, let's avoid the surgery altogether.
Yeah.
Like, they're not. That's just such a weird thing.
The whole system's a mess.
It's just crazy. So the bottom line is, we don't believe that surgery is your best option pretty much ever.
Yeah.
There are
it'd have to be an ultra special case.
And again, there are those cases. Yeah. I'm not going to say that there aren't.
We're not saying they don't exist, but you're probably not it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If you really, truly don't want to put in the work and you would rather just have the easiest way out, okay, by all means have the surgery, but I'm saying it's really not making your life easier in the long run. So I think what you should do is spend that time and energy and money on finding a team that's going to support your body the best and help you get to the root cause of why it is that you can't lose weight on your own. And we can build a better health with food and exercise and lifestyle management rather than a surgery.
And quit looking at things in week and month time frames and start putting the perspective into years. What could you look like in 5 years if you actually started down the road of changing your life?
Because if you were to put 5 years in, and at the end of those 5 years, be exactly where you want to be versus losing the weight you want to lose in 3 months and then 5 years later being the same weight or heavier than you were when you went into surgery. Like, what would you rather have?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense to me. And not everybody gains their weight back. That's true too. but a lot of people do. And I would say most of the people that I have seen have the surgery have gained weight back or have never successfully lost all of the weight that they wanted to lose.
Right. I mean, I think that's the big one that not a lot of these studies even track. So the measurement that they use is percentage of excess weight lost. So excess weight being the excess body fat that they have to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said, their barometer for success is 50% of that. So
yeah, they see successful weight loss post-bariatric surgery as 50% of your excess body weight.
Right. And so if you've got somebody that gets to that mark, they're considered a success story, but they're still, while they're certainly much better off than they were before weight-wise, they're still not getting to the point where they really want to be.
Yeah.
And now they're in a much worse position to get there because all of those components of body composition are that much harder to acquire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and so we were on the website for, what is it, the American Council for Bariatric Surgery or something like that, right? Okay, yeah. So like a National Institute for Bariatric Surgery. And they were on the webpage dispelling different myths and trying to say that, it's a myth that people regain weight post-surgery. It's a myth that your metabolic rate changes post-surgery. So that's, I think, another big problem is like, okay, doctors are getting their information from these national councils, and these national councils are putting information out there that honestly is just not true.
It's just not true.
So again, be careful where you get your information. I know that should be a trustworthy source. And again, I'm not saying that these surgeries don't work for anybody, but I think that people just need to be more informed.
Yeah.
Just be more informed. The website literally said your metabolic rate does not change post-surgery, which is 100% a lie because you're cutting down your caloric intake by a half or a quarter or, whatever, like 3/4. There's no physical way for your metabolic rate to not change.
What would be interesting, and I know there's no data on this, but what would be interesting is if they could possibly look into what percentage of people that have this surgery after, say, a decade, 10 years, are no longer classified as overweight. I guarantee the percentage is incredibly small.
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to what we said before is like, so maybe you didn't gain any weight back, but if you only lost 20, 30 pounds coming out of the surgery that you wanted to lose 100, and now you're way worse off in doing it with diet and exercise naturally, and you don't have the option of having the surgery
and then you come to us and you've been eating 700 calories a day and your weight's been stalled out.
And you don't have the physical capacity to reverse diet, because that's a problem that I've run into with multiple clients is because their stomach capacity is lower and their metabolic rate is tanked, and I can't refeed them.
Right.
There's no room for me to feed them all the things they need
to bring them.
And essentially, that's a lose-lose situation. And, I've tried keto with some of those people. Well, they can't absorb or digest fat very well, so keto doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so it's like we don't have any options anymore.
Yeah.
Like this weight loss surgery really did kind of ruin things for you.
If the surgery only gets you halfway to your goal, then guess what? You're left to, you guessed it, diet and exercise with less ability.
Less resources. So please think very carefully about this and don't just take the doctor's word for it. Go and talk to lots of people.
Talk to us.
Talk to people who've had it be successful. Talk to people who've had it not be successful.
Talk to us.
Talk to us.
We've worked with countless people that have gone through this.
If willpower is truly not your issue, I don't think this is going to be helpful. If there's something going on, let us help you figure it out. There are, doctors who work more functionally that look at how all your body systems are connected and might be standing in your way. Where that conventional doctors don't look at. So there are answers.
This is the absolute last option to ever pursue.
Yes.
So I think that's
that's about covered it. I know we just
went a little bit
this has made me very
crazy.
sad. I mean, again, if you've had it done in the past, we're not talking badly about you in any way. We're just trying to put facts out there.
We've also had plenty of clients that have seen success after having the surgery.
Yeah, no, I have known. I have known a handful of people who it has been successful.
Not to say that it doesn't work. It's just do your research.
Yeah, it's just
think about other options.
A PSA to be informed and know your other options and know that weight loss surgery doesn't have to be your first, second, or third choice.
Right. And this is not a short-term game.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. If you've got anything you'd like us to cover in the future, feel free to reach out to myself at hypertrofit.com. You can find Alexa at therootedrd.com. And we will see you guys again next week.
We'll see you guys next week.